There's a lot of red going on right now. I feel like I didn't plan this out.
It's a color pop.
Yeah. They got the bright red, the orange, and then the magenta.
I love how your microphone looks like it's just on fire.
It is,
It's
yeah.
like, okay. All right. Well, welcome to the world of our technical difficulties, everyone. But here we are, SMUG. Thanks for coming today. And thanks for being patient. Took us a couple of minutes to get up, but here we are. So happy to be here. You're probably hoping to see Joe tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't make it today. So I'm standing in for him. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Kim. Usually I'm kind of behind the scenes doing stuff, but today I'm going to help co-host with our lovely Adam. So Adam, how's it going?
It is going. Yeah, that was definitely stressful a little bit there. Getting everything connected, but we finally got it. I don't know what was going on with that sync there, but thank you, Vincent, for the shout out. I definitely always appreciate throwing on some Santa flair around the holidays. So we were just joking that there's a lot of red going on here, right? With the beard, the hat, the mic, the shirt. Apparently I'm just yeah.
Color coordinated today.
Yeah. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got some releases to talk about, both upcoming. We've got one coming up next week, which I'll get into, and we had multiple releases in November as well. We've got some marketing stuff to chat about with some blog updates, and FMS holiday cards and things like that. And so I think we can just kind of jump in. I want to talk first and foremost about these releases. And so we'll start there. We had the 667 release came out literally the day before our previous SMUG in November. So if you want more details on that particular release, I recommend you watch that. Check out our release notes on our help site. We had multiple follow-up releases to that. So some sub-releases to the 667 that we're going through and clearing some things up. And one of them we'll actually talk about when we get to the Ask SMUG kind of Q&A section, when we have those posts down in there. One of them is actually detailed around that. So if you're curious, a lot of them were kind of small feature stuff and some bug fixes, kind of those first couple of weeks of November. So if you want to take a look at that, feel free. The other thing, by the way, while I'm chatting here, Justin, you want to make sure I've got sharing permissions before I get into this too quickly. We've got a pretty large release coming out next week. It's a 668. And there are a couple of small, medium-sized features that I'm excited to show you guys. We've been working on here for a few weeks. And they sort of came up relatively quickly during some pretty significant feedback I've had. One of them came through a SMUG post actually a month or so ago. And a couple others came through some kind of surveys and interviews that I was doing with some users. So without further ado here.
Real quick, how do I allow you to do that?
So there, next to the share screen, there should be a little drop-down arrow or something like that, and you should be able to allow others to share.
Boom, there you go.
All right.
All right.
There we go. So as we are over here, this is the schedule 2.0, right? And you guys might be noticing these zebra stripes on these appointments. So this, again, was a SMUG post that came up, I want to say like 6 weeks ago, give or take. Some users were talking about, hey, when we have, appointments that are on the schedule that don't have anybody assigned to them, that's usually, in a lot of cases, I shouldn't say usually, some of you guys do like to wait to the last day, and I'll get into that here in a second, to assign anybody. But usually that means that maybe you were moving some appointments around and someone got dropped, right? And so just basically a way for you guys to sort of audit yourselves and make sure that there is someone assigned to go and do that work. So what we have here is this sort of zebra stripe on the UI. We also, as you noticed, made this little pop-up on the hover a little bit more bold and red, so it's more obvious. And if you have the details turned on, which if you guys don't know is just this little details toggle here, we also made this more obvious. This label here, the no text label, actually just used to be blank. If there was no one assigned, it just wouldn't say anything. So we added that onto there as well. And you can still see that the zebra stripes exist here. They also show if you're on a conflict and looking at that, or so on and so forth. So basically, we made it a lot more obvious if you have an appointment that's scheduled that doesn't have a technician assigned to it. Now, some of you guys might be saying, hey, I actually don't assign anybody until the last day. We kind of do that as part of our morning meeting or something like that. That's totally okay. If this, creates too much clutter on the schedule and you don't want to utilize that, you have a way to turn it off. So it's gonna be turned on by default, but all you have to do is go into your settings here within the schedule, go into the display settings here on the left. And then there's a new section we created here called appointments and activities. And there's a show warning if no techs are assigned. If you turn that off and hit save, those stripes disappear. The no tech message will still exist, right? You just won't have that kind of UI stripe element. So once this releases, I'll definitely go back and I'll make sure I update that SMUG post and thank everyone who kind of offered their feedback there. Really appreciate that, guys, and hope that this is something that provides value to you guys. The other changes we had were tied to kind of some frustration points from existing users and also to kind of help the user experience when you're learning the software. So the first one is tied to the quick add. If I'm using the quick add, right, and I just make, SMUG tester here and SMUG test, 85 at fakeemailhere.com. If I just make this, I can create an order, blank order, appointment, whatever. I hit save and close. This toast message down at the bottom used to just permanently stay. You guys had to manually close it. I'm in the test environment here, so it's taking a second to warm up. But that toast message that would come up, that would show the account and the order, and it'll show up here in just a second. Down at the bottom, that would be permanent. You guys would have to go in and actually close it. When we initially designed this, you can see it right here, right? So the quick add summary, the account and the work order and such, this would just stay here permanently unless you actually hit this close button. Well, now, after a 3-second delay, it will then collapse down into the bottom of the screen here. And this is designed so that it doesn't interfere with any other page. So like it's hidden below the margin, so to speak, so it doesn't get in the way of anything. But you guys can still open this back up. If maybe you need to jump into that account, right, or into that order, you guys can still do so. If you just come out of this, it'll collapse itself again, open, collapse. It'll stay open once you've opened it, as long as your cursor's inside here, and you can always just close out of it as well if you no longer need to go into that. So there's likely a little bit of a delay with the screen share, Vincent. I don't know if that's based on any setting that we have automatically. I'll try to just go slower on doing the screen share, and we'll try to just make sure that there's enough of a kind of leeway there. So hopefully still the message is getting across. Otherwise, we'll see what our options are. So that's kind of the change to the toast. And this actually came across from a lot of, like I said, lengthy discussions with some users who weren't always sure which account they were looking at. So maybe they'd made something with the quick add, jumped to another account, and then that message is still up there, and they think that like, hey, I'm on the Bob Smith account, and they click it and it takes them to a separate account, and they were sort of getting lost in that. Plus, it's one less click for you guys, which is something that, is generally a positive. And I think it turned out really well. You guys can let me know when you start kind of playing around with that, how that worked. The other changes were tied to new order creation. So a lot of you guys are pros with ServiceMonster at this point. So maybe this doesn't apply to you as much as a brand new user or someone you're bringing on maybe to train, someone you hire. When you're first coming into here, it wasn't super clear that you could click into these sections. Like this is all flat in production. We don't have any of these borders around anything except for the description line. And so what was happening is new users were coming in and they were struggling with creating products and services to start with. Once you have the products and services in the system, it's a lot easier, right? You can click into here and you can just see your list and you can search the list, right? But there's another problem. If you would do like test service 8 here, and it didn't pull up an existing match, it would just show you the full list. There was nothing there. You would have to create a product or service. And this is actually a lot less noticeable. And these are actually gray buttons in production. So we made the action buttons more visible. We made it very clear there's no results if you're searching for something very specifically. You can do partial searches, right? And it'll pick up anything there, but there's nothing for this exact search. And you can also just create a new product or service from here. So it's basically just helping drive that behavior to actually create the service, create the product involved, and be able to set up defaults if they want, and then save that, and now it's actually in the system. It doesn't get lost and sort of become like miscellaneous services. So there's some other changes tied to this as well. If you come in from the home screen, you're just making a new order, and you have to choose the account here on this page, and you create a new account. Sorry for my loud mechanical keyboard here. If you create this account from that process, it actually just selects that account now directly. And so what used to happen is it would take you back into this menu and you still had to select that account. So it was sort of, it was giving you a bunch of extra steps that weren't really part of your workflow. So all of that process is tied together much, much more smoothly. Hey, happy holidays, Paul. Thank you for the nice message. All of that whole process is tied together much more smoothly. And like I said, it's really to help those newer users. I know it's not something a lot of you guys necessarily might deal with, but we really hope that helps those new users. So those are kind of the three big features. There are another 25 or so items within the release itself. And so, be on the lookout for those release notes that will be released in the middle of next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. So we're excited to get that out. And then really what I wanted to kind of tease you guys with, I'm not going to go into any specifics until the January Ask SMUG, but we have a couple of new integrations that are coming through the pipeline for early 2023. So like I said, I've chatted about them a little bit, maybe if you guys have been paying attention to previous episodes, but we'll have more to discuss in the future. And I think there'll be something that a lot of you guys will see some significant value for, and we're excited to get those running. We also have an existing integration that's going through some pretty major upgrades right now. So we'll have time to talk about that in January as well, along with a host of other releases and such at the new year. January is going to be absolutely nuts in terms of new content for you guys. So we're excited to get that out. Whew, all right. Losing my voice here. With that, I think I'm gonna toss this over to Kim for just a minute. We had some blog updates, and I think that there's something that if you guys haven't seen them already, highly recommend you take a look. Kim, you want to kind of chat about those?
Sure. Yes, please go over to our blog because there's tons of new content that we're putting up there constantly. So a while back, we started doing these growth interviews, and they have been so fun to do and to do write-ups on. And their stories are so interesting. Adam's been really great at interviewing our customers who are doing the interviews. And the last one that we had was with Pete Happy from ProShine. And there was so much information in this interview that we actually had to make it a two-parter. So go to the blog, check it out. There's a really interesting story about basically how he kind of bootstrapped his business and grew it from the ground up with cash and managed to thrive during COVID. So it's a really interesting read. Check it out.
Yeah, big shout out to Pete. He watches these fairly consistently, so I'm excited to have him. He's not with us currently, I don't think, but hopefully he gets that, and we're super excited. There's some other really cool content that we got from that that his team was really helpful with, and there's others, right? And I wanted to take this moment too. I meant to actually share this before, but it's actually really easy if you guys didn't know to access our blog. You don't even have to go to the ServiceMonster website, though it is there. It's very easy to find up top, right? You can just within ServiceMonster hit this little question mark up top, and there's our blog right there. You can jump right to it. Boom, you're right here. You can see the ProShine interview right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this part 1 and part 2. And like I said, if you're on the ServiceMonster website already, the blog is right up here in the upper right. So there you go. All right. So last thing I want to chat about in terms of just general marketing is FMS. a lot of you guys have put in your FMS holiday card orders, and our team has been extremely busy working on those. Alex and his team have been really putting in some extra work. Really appreciate everything that they do to try and make sure that these are all completed, right? There's still some that are waiting approval. So if you guys haven't, or if you guys have put orders in and you haven't approved them, or need to chat with Alex about maybe kind of changing up the list a little bit, like maybe there's certain users you want to be assigning those to rather than your entire account list or something like that, make sure you get with him. He can help you narrow down that list if that's something that is a concern. We also wanted to say that while the last day for guaranteed delivery before Christmas was, I believe, this last Monday.
I think so.
So if you guys have been kind of on the fence and you do want to get some of those out, we can't guarantee them by Christmas, but the team will do everything in their power to get them out as soon as possible. Maybe they trickle in, right around the Christmas time, between Christmas and New Year's or so forth. But you really want to fill that form out ASAP if you want any of that, whether it's a small order, large order, or whatnot. So we'll have the form. Justin can share that and make sure if anyone does have that last minute order, like I said, put it in ASAP. Alex and his team will get in touch with you and get all of that sorted out. So while we were kind of planning this this event, we were chatting about just holiday marketing in general, right, with the FMS and kind of what that means. And I figured since we have Kim on here and she's one of our marketing experts, that it'd be kind of interesting topic to just chat about for a couple of minutes, because the holidays are kind of interesting time for marketing. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. Right. And Joe and I have talked about this before in the past. The FMS holiday card, yes, it absolutely helps, with your general brand recognition. It's going to, help with retention on some level, right? But it's really just kind of a nice thing to do. It's sort of like a, hey, we appreciate you and hope that you continue to appreciate us kind of thing, right? The holidays are just kind of a nice way to do that. In fact, kind of interesting story. I moved up here 15 years ago, which is crazy. That doesn't seem right at all. I'm still 25 years old, right, guys? I'm not, right? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. I moved up here 25 years ago, or 15 years ago. And I had trouble finding a dentist. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had anxiety with a dentist. When I was a kid, it was awful. I had to take, muscle relaxers just to go because I would panic so much in the chair. And I happened to get really lucky. One of my friends that I had made at work had this great optometrist, and they had a dentist office next door that they highly recommended. And sort of, I went in there, and you guys are probably wondering, where is this going? Well, I promise it has a purpose here. They ended up being phenomenal. By far the best dentist I've ever worked with. I can't sing their praises enough. The whole team is great. The office is great. The dentist himself is phenomenal. But they have this really cool thing that I had never seen before. When during the holidays, they actually have a wall that they display, and they get a significant amount of Christmas cards from their clients to just post on the wall. And I had never seen that before. I thought that was really, really cool. And it gets to the point their entire office is just overwhelmed by the time it's all said and done. I thought it was such a cool thing that, they had such a connection with their clients. Obviously there's health things, like being a dentist is a very core part of your life, at least on some level. But I think it's kind of the same thing with FMS. And so now that I've sucked all the oxygen out of the room with my stories, Kim, do you want to kind of just chat about that, what the thinking is around marketing around the holiday, and kind of what works best and what doesn't?
Yeah. Oh, that was actually a really great story, Adam. So really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, looking at how you want to market during Christmas time, it's not just about getting these quick wins and quick sales, right? I mean, not every marketing effort that you make is just around that. A lot of it is just around building relationships. So, and building relationships is going to, keep you, what we like to say is the highest LTV clients, the ones who are going to stick around with you and the ones who are going to come back. So a lot of our users who use FMS, one of the biggest things about FMS for them is they say it's just been amazing at keeping people coming back and client retention. So when you're sending out that Christmas card, it's not to get you a quick sale, or it's not to talk about promos or anything like that. It's to say we appreciate you, and it's just giving it a personal touch and saying we're thinking about you during the holidays. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And they are valuable 2 cents. So,
Thanks.
and with that, I want to take the moment, even though we're not in our closing here, I do want to say, it's a nice segue that we do appreciate you guys. I hope that comes across in the way that we interact, whether it's us on these live events or webinars with Joe and I, or, talking to our sales or support staff when things come up. We really do appreciate all of you guys. We're excited to be on that journey with you. And, I hope you guys are all doing well for the holiday season and everything else. Yeah. With that, I think we can close off with a couple of SMUG posts here. The first post is, I mentioned at the top of the hour that one of the sub releases we had earlier in the month was tied to an issue tied to the account overview page. And we had tried a couple of things in the 667 release to help load times. Some of you guys, particularly if you have to do a lot of commercial work, commercial window cleaning is a big one where I see this a lot. We have a ton of open work orders and unpaid invoices that are attached to just a very large commercial client. Like maybe there's someone that you work with literally every single day, multiple locations, and you invoice them at the end of the month, right? Something like that. And the account overview page, when it was built, was limiting those sort of subsections. If you guys are familiar with that page, I can just kind of show you here because I have that ability, right? I'm He-Man, right? I have the power. I'm really dating myself now. Anyways, if you go to an account screen here and you have that account overview, right? So this section right here is what I'm talking about, the unpaid invoices, open work orders, and so forth. So some of you guys had 50 plus items in here. And so if the reason that we put that in there initially was because this page has a lot of data, and it uses what we call a stored procedure. And we wanted to kind of keep load times as consistently low as possible. And so we're trying to solve issues around expanding that so that users who have more can, go through those. Went through a couple of back and forth things with the dev team. The solution that we had just did not work out. It created extra clicks for you guys. And so what we did was we basically had the best of both worlds. If you have more items, you can load more, right? But it still has that same initial load, and everything when you come onto this page, once again, loads automatically. You don't have to click to open those. So Tiffany, Chelsea, and everyone else who might or who chipped in on that feedback, thank you guys. I'm sorry that we took us a week or so to get that resolved, but I'm hoping that's working out. The next thing came through from Alan. He had a webinar via Ring Central. And I know that some of you guys use Ring Central, so I just kind of wanted to post this just in case it's useful for anyone. Because also I think this is a really good way to utilize SMUG, right? If you guys have something that you think is going to be beneficial for you because of a tool that you use that maybe isn't ServiceMonster, you guys can still share that with your fellow business owners and maybe it's useful. So I will work with Justin to share that particular link so you guys can see that if it's worthwhile, if you use Ring Central. If not, then you can carry on unless it's something that interests you, right? So the last one is from Matt. And I actually went back and forth on whether I should show this or not because it does get kind of complex. But you know what? I was like, they can listen to me ramble for a little bit. Joe's not here, so we've got plenty of time, right? Don't tell him I said that, guys. Don't tell him I said that. But I'm just kidding. But Matt had asked if there was a way to compile a list of repeat clients based on how often we've serviced them and then break it down kind of in different categories. And I gave kind of a lengthy response that Matt was able to utilize. And so I kind of just wanted to showcase a couple of things. One, let me just share my screen here again, because I think that'll be most beneficial for you guys. If you're on any of our grids, guys, if you're on the account list or the order list, if you're on any of these grids, you can customize these grids. So you can come over here, you can turn on these advanced options by using this little hamburger menu. And you can filter in this list, you can add additional columns, right? Any of the columns that are within that grid, you can add them. So for example, average invoice or invoice count, right? I can turn those on. Then I can come over here and I can sort by the invoice count just by clicking the header. It's going to sort ascending and descending. So I can see, hey, this invoice has 202 invoice. I'm really curious. This is a test company. Really curious. Apparently we just use the same one. Foghorn Leghorn here has a lot. But you can grab these columns of data. You can honestly utilize this to create sort of custom reports. And you can take this a step further, which we talked about this in actually one of our, I think the October SMUG. You can use, so right here by this, by the viewer, right? So normally where you would look at all accounts versus active or jump to one of these other default views, you can create custom views. Just hit this little plus button and you can just build a custom view that is based on certain data. And so what we suggested was, hey, you look at the acquisition date, maybe you say it's between a date range or it's greater than, whatever. But we could say, hey, between 0 and 5 years, just grab the recent ones and then set invoice count. So where I just was looking there, it's going to be in the order section, invoice count. And I can just say greater than 1 or greater than 0, right? So anything that has 1 or more. And I can just have this view. Oh, gotta give it a name. I can just give it that view. I can save it and it's going to pull that up. I can then create the custom columns I want for that view. I can jump to this later. So let's say I'm just looking at my active account list as normal. I'm like, hey, remember the thing that I did before? Boom, I can jump right back to it. I don't have to go through those extra steps. It's just saved. This is what Joe and I talk about, how you can basically create your own custom reports, at least to a certain level, grab the data you need, and then you can pull it out into Excel and do even more things with it, right? You can run calculations. And that's what I gave the advice for. I suggested, hey, once you have this list, you can export it to Excel, which is right here. Export as a CSV. And then when you have that CSV file, you can then create some calculations to figure out how many days it's been since acquisition. And then you can run basically different calculations to group them, right? So that's basically what I suggested. And so I don't know if you guys care about the Excel formulas or anything like that, but really what I'm trying to hone in on here is that your data exists within here. And, I think one of the great things about SMUG is maybe you guys understand a significant portion of your data, but maybe there's a question you have like, hey, I feel like this is coming up more and more, and I feel like it'd be a really valuable, KPI for me to understand more, but I don't know how to gather that information. Those questions are phenomenal in SMUG. There's a ton of just very successful and intelligent business owners in here. And that's where we can kind of go through this exercise and be like, hey, I see the data you might need, and here's how you can get it. And anytime these conversations go on, Joe and I also see it and have a conversation about, hey, what's the value add for this compared to, how many resources would it take to add something like this, whether it's a custom report that we build, whether it's, a dashboard that we look into, things like that, right? So the more you guys have these conversations in SMUG or, with us, maybe it's on a support call or something like that, that's more data that we can gather to see if maybe there are some KPIs or some discussions for dashboard improvements or whatever that might be, right? So just going to get out there and explain that. I hope that was helpful for you, Matt. I hope that this presentation was helpful for any of you guys watching. Like I said, it's one of my favorite features in ServiceMonster. I'm a big data guy. I love that you can create those kind of custom items in there. So really though, we'll just turn this off, come back to our smiling faces over here. That's pretty much all I've got. I know, I'm sorry we started a little bit late there, but we got a good solid half hour. I didn't see any questions come up. I do appreciate all of the kind words from Paul and Vincent and everyone else in chat there. I think we can leave it there. So I will definitely say happy holidays to all of you guys, your family, your work family, everyone else. We definitely wish you guys happy holidays and happy new year. As an added joke, I think one of my favorite videos that Justin and I ever did was also a December video. Remember this video, Justin?
Was it when you shaved your beard?
It was when I shaved the
Yep,
beard.
I remember that.
It's my all-time favorite video that Justin and I have ever put together. I still occasionally, when he links it to me, I still crack up. Now, first and foremost, as you probably noticed, tragedy has befallen the beard. I went in for a quick trim, did not go as planned, tried to salvage it, weeped a lot, and then ended up just kind of having to shave it off at 5:30 the next morning. It's a very sad event. Any of you who have grown a beard, I'm sure you probably had similar experiences, maybe. Go ahead and leave a comment if you have, but just let me know if you have had a similar experience. My heart goes out for you. Hopefully we can get some hair on this baby face ASAP, so you guys don't have to worry about that too much longer. But yes, have to regrow that bad boy. Look completely different. It's really weird for me to watch it. It's like you're looking at a stranger. So that's kind of whatever. But
We'll have a link to that in the
I was
chat.
gonna say we'll have a link to that. You guys can enjoy that at my expense. But yeah, definitely for me, and for all of us here at ServiceMonster, wish you guys very happy holidays, and we'll see you next month.
Happy holidays, everyone.